Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on something that affects so many of us in fields like audit, risk, compliance, infosec.
Report writing.
Exactly, report writing. And let's be honest, actually writing them and wading through them. It can feel like a real chore, can it?
Oh, definitely. A necessary evil sometimes.
But here's the idea we're exploring. What if clearer writing wasn't just, easier to read, but actually packed a much bigger punch, made a real difference?
Absolutely. Reports are often treated as just a tick box thing, aren't they? Something you have to produce.
Hmm.
But if we really focus on making them clear, truly clear, we're not just doing the reader a favor. We're actually boosting the impact of everything we communicate.
Totally agree. And to help us cut through some of that noise, we're diving deep into a book called Radical Reporting, writing better audit, risk, compliance, and information security reports.
Good source.
Yeah, the author, Sarah, she's connected with the Chartered Institute of Internal Auditors in the UK and Ireland, writes a lot for industry journals, speaks at events.
And she won an award too, right? The Internal Audit Beacon Award in 2022.
That's the one. And what's really interesting is her background. She's lived and worked internationally, US, UK, France, even the former Soviet Union.
Wow, okay. So she's seen a lot of different communication styles firsthand.
Exactly. It gives her this really insightful perspective on how communication works, especially across cultures.
Yeah, that's key because our audiences, even in these fields, they're diverse. You can't just assume everyone's coming from the same place.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to pull out the key actionable techniques from this book.
The stuff people can actually use.
Right. Things you can use pretty much right away to make your reports more readable, more impactful. We know everyone's busy, no time to get bogged down in, endless theory.
Quick hits, practical advice.
Exactly. We're giving you the express route to understanding what really matters here. We'll look at culture's role, communication within and between teams, the whole theory and practice of clarity in writing, and some really practical steps to sharpen things up.
Sounds good. Where do we start? Culture.
Let's do it. Starting with how culture shapes the way we get our message across.
Yeah, this is such a crucial foundation. We often think of culture as just like national differences, right?
Huh?
But it's broader.
How so?
Well, you've got national, regional, industry sector, professional culture, even the culture within one specific company.
Okay, lots of layers.
Loads. And all these layers really affect how we communicate, written and spoken. And it's deeper than just language or gestures. It shapes how people actually see the world.
The book uses a great example for this, the difference between high context and low context communication styles.
Ah, yes, that's a classic one.
Thinking about the British style, which tends to be more high context, the book mentions Nanette Ritmeester's table showing how Brits might say things indirectly.
Expecting you to read between the lines.
Right. And Kate Fox, in Watching the English, talks about phrases like, "Oh, really? How interesting."
Which could mean anything.
Exactly. Genuine interest, polite, doubt, total boredom.
Yeah.
You have to decode it.
Whereas low-context cultures, like the Dutch example in the book, they tend to be much more direct. Say what you mean.
So a key takeaway here for listeners is think about your reader's likely cultural context, if they might be more low context.
Be explicit. Spell it out. Don't rely on hints.
Even if it feels a bit blunt to you personally. Better clear than confusing.
Definitely. That clash between styles can really cause problems in reports. A low-context reader might just find a high-context report vague, wishy-washy.
And it's not just the words, is it? It affects structure, too.
Absolutely. The book notes UK reports can sometimes seem a bit disorganized, maybe repetitive, to North American or European readers.
Yeah, it mentions this idea that maybe outlining isn't taught as rigorously or early in the UK and Ireland compared to some other places.
Which leads to that German banker's comment. What was it?
Thought and word salads.
Yes.
Oh.
That paints a picture, doesn't it?
It really does. So another insight. Think about structure. A clear outline, a logical flow. Pretty much everyone appreciates that.
It's just good practice, regardless of cultural background. Really, it shows you've thought it through.
The book also touches on differences across sectors, public, private, third sector.
They have different drivers, different priorities.
But it also says the lines can be blurry. Sometimes organizational size or function matters more than the sector itself.
Right. John Cheshire's point about big government departments having communication styles may be more like big corporations.
Than smaller government agencies. Yeah. More formal, more bureaucratic, perhaps, in those large entities.
And Mark Carowin's perspective is interesting, too, this idea of a shared professional culture among auditors, compliance folks.
built on things like facts, transparency, independence.
Exactly, a common ground. But even then, he stresses clarifying definitions.
Like the word risk.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Risk can mean very different things to different people, even within the same profession. So, takeaway. Never assume shared understanding.
Always define your key terms. Such a simple thing, but so important.
It avoids so much confusion later.
And finally, on culture, the book mentions how an organization's own culture shows up in its language. Is the focus on doing good or just doing well?
That definitely shapes the tone and what gets emphasized in reports.
Okay, so that's the broad cultural landscape. Now let's zoom in a bit. Communication within teams and between teams.
Right, because even in the same organization, different teams can have different assumptions, different goals.
Even if everyone understands the big picture mission, once you get into specific divisions or teams,
Priorities diverge, perspectives shift, can cause friction.
think about communication just within a single team. You've got chats, meetings, emails.
Email, so easy, so fast.
But maybe too easy sometimes. People might dash things off without really thinking about the message or the audience.
Definitely. Can lead to mix-ups even with colleagues you think are on the same wavelength.
The book gives that example of the word strategy.
Oh yeah, that was powerful. How different parts of the organization had totally different ideas of what strategy meant.
Led to a real disconnect between what management wanted and what actually happened. Shows the danger of just assuming understanding.
And then throw cross-cultural dynamics into a global team.
Things get even trickier. The example of the London heads rewriting reports from US, Dutch, German teams.
And actually making them less clear. Because the London team preferred that high-context, indirect style.
Yeah, they introduced errors, diluted the original message, which was often grammatically better and more direct.
It really underlines that just because someone isn't a native English speaker doesn't mean their writing needs fixing. Sometimes that directness is clearer for business.
Absolutely. Not being English doesn't equal bad writing in this context.
And the whole shift to remote work since 2020, that's changed things too, hasn't it?
Big time. Broke down some barriers, sure, maybe more cost-effective in ways.
But screen fatigue is real. Affects how we read and process info.
Definitely. And then there's communication between different teams. That's where jargon really bites.
Oh yeah, specialist terms. Strategy, risk, material. They can have specific meanings in one silo that others just don't get.
IT specialists often know they use jargon, they try, but the book suggests maybe they sometimes focus on like project management speak or buzzwords.
Which isn't always helpful for the rest of the business.
Right. The book argues it would be better if they explained the core principles and standards they use, like NIST, COBIT.
Explain the why behind it in plain language.
Yeah, and talk about current risks, emerging risks, how IT governance helps manage those. That bridges the gap.
Makes sense. And the book also briefly notes the influence of regulators, especially in finance.
How bank reports often mirror the language and priorities of bodies like the European Banking Authority or the Fed.
Which raises a point.
Yeah.
What if the regulators' priorities are, or the exercises don't produce reliable results? It's a bigger context to consider.
Okay, so from national styles down to team talk, being conscious of your audience is just paramount. Now let's get to the real core. Clarity in writing. What's the theory? Why is it so critical?
Well, clarity, fundamentally, is just making sure your reader gets your message quickly, easily, without confusion.
Sounds simple, F.
It sounds simple, but it's absolutely fundamental to whether your reports actually work. And by extension, how well the whole organization works.
If they're not clear.
They probably won't get read properly or understood or acted on, which kind of defeats the purpose, right?
So why does clarity often suffer? The book mentions a few reasons. Habit.
Yeah, just getting stuff in writing habits, even ineffective ones. And tiredness is a big one.
The late night report writing session.
Exactly. You take shortcuts, language gets vague, and then there's fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of delivering bad news, maybe? Challenging senior people?
Yeah.
Or even just fear of sounding different, not using the right corporate speak.
Fitting in.
And we need to see the link. Clarity equals success, lack of clarity. Well, it can lead to failure, serious failure sometimes.
When important info gets buried in jargon or evasive phrasing.
Bad decisions happen. Consequences follow.
The book also mentions ego, doesn't it? Using complex language to sound smart.
Yeah, maybe overcompensating. But it just gets in the way. And crucially, there's an ethical angle here too.
Ethical.
How so?
Well, if your report informs major decisions, you have a responsibility and ethical duty to be as clear and unambiguous as possible.
Makes sense. The book has some strong examples of unclear communication causing problems.
Yeah, like using vague words to maybe downplay bad news. The book argues being direct actually builds trust.
Right. And the BP share price example suggesting clearer communication might have helped.
And Rupert Morris's Clarity Index, that was fascinating.
Tell me more about that.
He found a statistical link between how clearly FTSE 100 companies wrote their annual reports and their stock market performance.
Really. Clearer writing, better performance. Consistently outperform their peers with less clear writing.
Wow. And Warren Buffett's famously clear style at Berkshire Hathaway is mentioned too.
As a possible factor in their success. Then you contrast that with Nokia.
They had the clear, burning platform email from the CEO.
But then these jargon-filled, unclear memos about redundancies. The book links that confusion to a culture of fear.
And the GM ignition switch case. That's chilling.
Yeah, internal training on how not to be clear about a deadly serious issue, deliberate lack of clarity with devastating results.
It's not just huge scandals either, is it? Pressure on external auditors, maybe, to soften findings?
Or internal auditors navigating tricky internal politics. It can all lead to less clarity.
The Barclays LIBOR report using issues instead of maybe concerns? Subtle, but it can lessen the impact.
Even Parliament criticized the UK's Financial Services Authority pretty directly after the financial crisis for their failures.
Which brings us to the dreaded management speak.
Corporate speak, business buzzwords.
The book says they serve two purposes: letting people write without thinking,
And confusing the reader, whether intentionally or not. Filling space without saying much.
and you hear CEOs sometimes saying they didn't know about problems. Maybe because they're drowning in unclear reports?
It's plausible. It's interesting, even regulators like the US SEC mandate plain English for investor reports. They even have a guide.
Shows it's a recognized problem.
Definitely. And the book makes that Orwell point, doesn't it? About how impoverished language, full of cliches, can actually limit our ability to think clearly.
So clear writing isn't just for the reader, it sharpens our thinking too.
Exactly. So, okay, we get why clarity matters and what gets in the way. Let's get practical. How do we actually do it?
Right, the practice. The book gives us the ABCs: active voice, brevity, and clarity, focusing on word choice.
Okay, ABC. Let's start with A, active versus passive voice.
The book explains the difference clearly. Active, the manager reviews the report, subject does the action.
Passive. The report is reviewed by the manager, subject receives the action.
Now, the problem with passive is often it leaves out who did it. Like, the report was reviewed.
By whom? Yeah, creates ambiguity about responsibility. Rupert Morris suggests aiming for, what, 85% active voice?
Yeah, drop much below that and readers can get confused. But there's a hesitation sometimes, isn't there? Fear of sounding like you're blaming people.
Especially in audit or risk. But Marisa Melieu points out the goal is usually finding solutions together, not pointing fingers.
Still, the book warns against being too cautious because avoiding active voice can really obscure who's meant to do what. Louise McKay says active voice engages the audience much better.
You see a lot of passive voice in procedures docs, too. The system will be updated. Okay, who's updating it? Leads to inaction.
Right. Active is just more direct, more engaging. Okay, B, brevity.
Keep it concise, easier to read.
Yeah.
Martin Kutz's guideline is aiming for sentences around 15-20 words, the rule of 20.
Same number as Rupert Morris's passive voice rule. Aim for 20/20 vision.
Nice. And many of us were trained, maybe in school, to write to word counts. That's a hard habit to unlearn.
But worth it for the reader. Cultural things play a role too, right? Longer sentences in some languages.
Yeah, and compound words, like in German, that example, Rechtsschutzversicherungsgesellschaften.
Whoa!
Exactly. Can lead to longer English sentences that feel dense.
But we don't need to count words manually. Tools like words readability stats can help.
Thank goodness for that. Okay, C, clarity, specifically word choice. This is where nominalizations come in.
Ah, the zombie nouns or smothered verbs.
That's it. Turning a verb like analyze into a noun like analysis, which then needs extra words like perform an analysis.
Makes sentences clunky, sluggish, like the verbs just gave up.
And often hides the who, again like passive voice. The book has that local government example. Retention and completion.
Yeah.
Needs to be improved.
Super passive, full of zombie nouns, totally unclear who's supposed to do anything. Makes reviewing it a nightmare too.
And the book cautions against relying too much on LLMs, like ChatGPT, as a substitute for actually learning plain language skills.
especially in assurance roles where critical thinking and precise wording are key. They're tools, not replacements.
Right. It also mentions colleagues asking for reviews of the message, but ignoring the words.
Yeah, maybe indifference, maybe defensiveness.
Hmm.
But senior leaders often do appreciate clear language. David Dart's experience at NATO is a good example.
hmm Choosing words carefully, avoiding jargon and cliches, though sometimes technical terms are needed.
But explain them.
Exactly. And be wary of elegant variation. Forcing synonyms can just confuse people. Use English confidently wherever you're from.
The review process itself can be a hurdle, though, can it? Managers just wordsmithing.
Oh yeah, focusing on tiny style changes instead of the substance. The book also covers inclusive language using they, avoiding gendered terms.
And Camita Stepanyan's creative approach to compliant reporting and cybersecurity.
Yeah, finding that balance. And the book calls out trainers or consultants who advise on communication but write poorly themselves.
Practice what you preach.
Basically, it comes back to that house analogy. Clear thinking, plain language, those are the foundations. Declutter before review.
Okay, ABC's covered. Now, what about before you even write a word? Planning.
Absolutely essential. The book really stresses this. Planning imposes order on your thoughts, stops the report descending into chaos.
People think, I've got the info, got the template, I'll just start writing.
Big mistake, according to the book.
Yeah.
Henry Rollins' analogy is brilliant. Unplanned writing is like words trying to flee a fire inside his head.
Huh, vivid. So without a plan, it's likely to be disorganized, hard to follow.
The book even mentions the James ratio as a personal reminder of planning's importance. And mind mapping is discussed as a visual tool.
Right, mapping out inputs or planning comms for a tricky project like that fraud leaflet example.
Though it admits mind mapping isn't for everyone. Outlining is presented as maybe more universally useful.
What are the benefits of outlining?
Structures content logically, cuts down writing time, keeps you relevant, boosts focus and confidence. You think it through first.
The book says spending even half your time planning can drastically reduce the writing time itself.
Makes sense. There's that anecdote too, using a simple handwritten outline for an audit meeting.
And it calmed down a nervous defensive manager. Shows how planning improves reception.
Yeah, really thinking it through reveals complexity, gaps, useful for plans, terms of reference, reports, everything.
Okay, planning gives us the skeleton. Now, structure and lay out the flesh on the bones. How the report actually looks and flows.
Hugely important for readability and impact. Remember the story about the ancient Spartans?
Confused by the long, rambling embassy speech.
Exactly. If it's presented badly, the message gets lost, no matter how vital it is.
And just sticking in loads of headings isn't the answer, is it?
No, the book cautions against that. It's about the underlying logical flow, not just visual clutter. Content organization is key.
Starts with the title. Needs to be clear, concise, not too vague, not ridiculously long.
A balancing act. It's the first filter for the reader.
Then, right at the start, the executive summary. Absolutely critical.
Like the lead in a newspaper article, the book says, gotta grab attention, give the main point up front.
Appendices are important too, structurally, for extra detail or maybe addressing defensive points without cluttering the main report.
The AXA group audit example shows real change is possible, cutting length, boosting quality through a focused effort.
Getting buy-in involving auditors.
Yeah. The book also suggests checking resources from professional bodies, ICA, ISICA, ACCA,
For standards, guidance, maybe regional specifics too.
and Camita Stepanyan's point. When there aren't rigid standards like ISO 27701 or IFRS, report writing can be more of an art.
Jeffrey Brown, the CISO, advises putting the reader first, focusing on business context, starting with narrative, not just data dumps.
Good advice. And that trend of report on a page.
Concise, yes, but the book says they still need purpose, objective, scope, results. Can't just be a pretty picture.
Visual appeal matters, though. White space, clear font makes a difference. Resources are mentioned for creating accessible documents.
But beware, template overload.
Oh, yes. Templates becoming ridiculously long, asking for repetitive or pointless info. That 30-page blank template example. Shudder.
Made things less clear, caused inconsistencies.
The book offers a structure for findings, or RMA. Observation, risk, root cause, management action plan, additional info, with guiding questions.
And examples of good one-pagers, clear purpose, assurance rating, highlights, improvements.
Recommends getting direct feedback too. Ask your readers what they find useful. a focus group.
And even consider other media, like video sometimes. Trent Russell's quote.
Yeah, maybe more efficient occasionally. Ultimately, as Lisson Swiss says, the format should aid understanding. If it doesn't, something's wrong.
Good point. Maybe ask QA teams for examples of good and bad reports, too.
Okay, structure sorted. Let's get into the real meat. Findings or observations and recommendations. This is where you flag issues, drive action.
The book suggests structuring them logically, maybe broadest to most detailed.
And while there are frameworks like the 5 Cs,
Criteria, condition, consequence, cause, corrective action. Bit of a mouthful.
yeah, the book suggests a simpler 3 Qs approach.
Which are?
Who is not doing what? So what? And how did this happen?
Okay. Who is not doing what? That's about responsibility, right? Team, department, management level,
Yeah.
not usually naming individuals.
Exactly. So what?
Yeah.
Is crucial articulating the real risk. Financial, reputational, regulatory, safety. Not just another control failed.
Like the cyber risk example leading to GDPR fines and reputation damage.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And how did this happen? That's the root cause analysis. Essential for recommendations that actually stick.
Need to fix the underlying problem, not just the symptom.
The book warns against just dumping data on readers without clearly stating, here's the problem, here's the risk, here's why it happened.
Professor Shoemaker's roadkill on the information superhighway image comes to mind again. Ouch.
It makes you think. And resist the urge to overstate or understate findings. Be objective. The 3 Qs help to keep you grounded.
Is this a valid finding worth reporting? The 3 Qs help answer that.
And on context, the book advises significant background, like restructuring,
Yeah.
belongs up front in the terms of reference or exec summary.
Not buried within a finding to try and dilute it.
Right. And always agree on what risk means with colleagues and clients, aligning with the organization's risk appetite.
Okay, findings covered. Now, arguably the most read part for senior folks.
The executive summary.
Absolutely critical. Often the first, maybe the only part they read in detail. The book boils it down to 2 key questions for the writer.
What are they?
First, what is the single most important message? And second, how have you left matters with the client or business area?
The single most important message that forces you to diagnose, doesn't it? Not just list finding.
Exactly. The book criticizes just condensing the detail without a central theme. Give the headline insight.
And the second question, how things were left.
Yeah. Are they agreeing, taking action, or importantly, are they disagreeing without good reason? That needs noting in the summary.
Even if cooperation is usually assumed, disagreement needs flagging up front. Senior leaders want that balanced, unbiased view, not the writer's subjective spin.
And what should be left out of the exec summary?
Unnecessary background, like why the audit was done because it was in the plan or part of a contract. Focus on the results.
The book has that example of a long, rambling exec summary from the UK National Audit Office as a what not to do.
Yeah. Stephen Sanders from Bank of Ireland sums it up well. Be brief, clear, precise. Ask why would the board care? Be specific. Use data.
Right. Brings us to the final stage, reviewing. So important for quality. Can save time in the end.
If done well, yes. The book clarifies terms from publishing, reviewing, editing, mechanical style, substantive, proofreading.
Proofreading is the very last step after formatting.
Right. And the editorial function should be separate from production. Copy editors point out issues. They don't rewrite the whole thing.
Fran Megan's advice, keep it simple and succinct, makes reviewing easier, less painful wordsmithing.
And the writer should lead the review process, set expectations on timing, focus. Reviewers shouldn't just scribble all over it.
Resist that urge to impose your personal style.
And writers absolutely must check for basic typos and grammar before submitting. Reviewers shouldn't be proofreaders.
It's inefficient and distracts from the real substantive issues if the reviewer is just finding typos.
Exactly. Managers need processes that encourage collaboration, like Paul Breach's approach at NatWest.
The book includes a practice text, too, highlighting mechanical errors and bigger issues like odd word choices or risky suggestions.
Yeah, good practice. The conclusion is that changing these habits, thinking, communicating, writing, reviewing, it's hard work.
Requires examining deep beliefs, especially against that illogical corporate speak background.
It comes back to Stephen Sanders' 2 essentials for a good report: plain language and guts.
The courage to take a clear stance based on judgment.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've
Okay.
covered a lot. The impact of culture, team communication dynamics,
The theory and the practical ABCs of clarity, active voice, brevity, clear word choice.
the crucial role of planning, effective structure, and layout.
Those 3 Qs for findings. The two crucial questions for executive summaries.
And practical tips on reviewing.
And the big theme weaving through it all. Clear, concise communication isn't just operational, it's ethical.
Absolutely. It leads to better understanding, trust, and ultimately better action.
And on that note, here's a final thought to leave you with. Writing truly effective reports. It's more than just a technical skill, isn't it? It really demands a human, reflective approach. It takes time, patience, honesty, courage, that guts factor again, and a real commitment to conversation, to listening. Maybe it's only when we master those things that we can write reports that truly matter, reports that actually drive positive change. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.